button. I'm going to do that now. So I'll be recording each one of our sessions just in case you miss it. If for some reason you miss it, I will post it under the week that we have these live sessions. It'll say live session recording. You can always go back and review that recording for anything that you may have missed. And then also, that is how you can make up an assignment. In um, the makeup assignment is located under the first section of your thing. It says makeup assignment. So you can do that there. And then it requires that you review and talk up and write a paper about what you saw in the class that you missed. Um, what else was I going to say? Okay, so that's a little bit about me. I'd like to get to know you as well as take attendance, which I will be doing. Give me one second. Um, wow, it's a lot of us. Okay, so what I'd like you to share with me is why you chose school counseling and also um, if you're currently working in the school system. If you're not, no problem. It just helps me to know how to explain the vocabulary and make sure that everybody has that opportunity. I am going to, Jasmine just came in, so I'm going to skip Jasmine. I'm going to go to Alejandro. Alejandro, can you turn on your mic and tell me why you chose school counseling?
I chose school
Yes.
counseling because I felt it was a great way for me to support the students that I work with now, in that I'm able to be more present for them and learn more about their career aspirations, about their social aspirations, their academic aspirations, and kind of help them establish strategies to help them reach each of those goals, as well as identify milestones. I do work in the school district. I am currently employed as a substitute teacher. I'm in the same district I was in 7 years ago when I started working as an avid tutor for the local high school.
Great. Thank you, Alejandro. And if you could also tell me what your preference is, what you're looking at, like for levels, if you want middle, elementary, high
I'm
school.
I'm looking at high school just because the little ones take a lot of energy. I would
Yeah,
say
they do.
just as much as any other grade. So middle school, I'll be okay with middle school, but I prefer the high school level. It's where I started and it's where I'm most comfortable.
Nice. Thank you, Alejandro. Caitlin.
Hi, decided to become a school counselor because I knew I always wanted to work with kids. So originally I wanted to go the teaching route or become a speech pathologist, but I kind of learned more about school counseling and I never had that opportunity because I went to private school, so we didn't have school counselors. And the more I learn about it, the more I just kind of like the impact they make on students' life. And that was just something like I was eager to do. And I'm currently not working at a school site or anything. But I'm hoping to work with elementary school. And luckily, I have a placement at elementary, so I'll be able to learn more from it.
Nice. Thank you, Caitlin. Jasmine, we're going to come back to you.
Well, I'm currently an elementary school teacher. I teach fourth grade, and I've always really liked working in the school setting. So that's kind of what inspired me to be a counselor. And also, I feel like uh, my high school counselor really made a big impact on me as a first generation college student. So that's also another reason why. And preferably, I would like to work at a high school level as well.
Thank you, Jasmine. Christina.
My name is Christina. I have been working as a school-based counselor for the past 4 years, and it was kind of like giving it a try, see what route I really wanted to do. And I feel I really made big impact in students. I work in elementary. I feel I would still go at an elementary, even though it's a lot. And I do work at a very busy school. But I like what I do there. I've never worked at a high school, so I don't know how it would be.
Okay. You'll find out. You'll do your practicum and a part of it will be there, perhaps. Gabriella.
Hi. So the reason I chose counseling, uh, so my daughter was in elementary, obviously, and she had some classes, and I just like the counselor there, and I was like, oh, I could do this, and ever since that, I looked into it, and I'm here.
Nice.
And
Thank
as
you.
of now, I don't work at a school setting, so,
Okay.
but I have, so.
Okay, perfect. Juliet.
Sorry. Hello, my name is Julieta, and I have been wanting to be a counselor since graduating high school due to being very involved with my high school counselor. I saw that he was supporting students and he understood us very well, and he just wanted the best for us, and he kind of motivated me into this career path. And I was an avid tutor I want to say 2 years ago, and then I'm gonna start subbing soon.
Nice. Thank you. Arthur.
My reasoning for wanting to become a counselor is that's my favorite part of my job is talking with the kids and understanding how we can get them moving forward. I currently work in the school, so I'm a security attendant, and we were busy today. Um, and then what was the other question?
What level would you like to do?
Ideally, junior high, where I currently am. They're little like they're energetic, and I don't know. There's something about junior high that just clicks for me.
Definitely. That's where I started. I understand. Emily.
Hello, my name is Emily. I currently work at a school district. I work with the newcomers. So, because working with the newcomers, it had opened the doors to wanting to work as a school counselor. I feel like a lot of the newcomers don't have that open environment where they have that support system. And I wanted to be that for them and be able to do that for other kids. So, that's why I chose school counseling.
Nice. Thank
And
you.
I want to choose right now. I currently work with elementary, so I want to work with like upper grade, so like middle high school, which that's going to be my practicum next week. So we'll see how that goes.
All right. You'll be fine. Rebecca.
Hi, I'm Rebecca, and yeah, I've been was a classroom teacher, and now I'm an intervention teacher, and I just really love, I think, like I'm really drawn to um, working with students who are maybe having some challenges that are getting in the way of their academics, and yeah, so I'm just really passionate about seeing what I can do to try and help them move forward um, and find that self-confidence. And I've always been at elementary, but I'm open and I'm also interested in possibly in college, a community college setting as well.
Okay. That's a separate certificate. So just FYI. And there's a lot of combination to it, but you do need that certificate in order to have to add like your the CWA is an actual is another separate certificate with extra classes. So you want to look into all of. Thank you, Rebecca. Haley, if you can get it all, get it all. I strongly recommend.
Hi.
Strongly recommend. It's a lot of competition out there, and we're doing a lot of, a lot of people becoming counselors. So you want to have as much as you can. Haley.
Hi. I chose counseling because I always knew I wanted to be in the education world, just didn't know where exactly. But I had a really
Mhm.
good relationship with my high school counselor, so that kind of I wanted to follow in her footsteps. And then I currently work as a substitute teacher for a couple of the districts around me. So I'm doing that to kind of help me figure out what grade level I want to work with. I always thought I would be high school, but I'm really liking the elementary kiddos. So curious to see where that ends up.
You should. I think you guys will be fabulous. I was young at one point and it was good for me too. I'm getting a little over the hill, so it's a lot of work. Esmeralda.
Um, I was inspired by two school counselors that really helped me in my undergraduate journey. Um, so I kind of take some inspiration from that. I think for me, I would like to work in a high school setting.
Okay. Are you currently working in the school district?
Oh, yes, high school level.
Perfect. Thank you. Kiara.
Hi, so the reason why I wanted to be a school counselor was that education was really pushed in my family, especially like in a
Mhm.
Mexican household. And my tia is also a school counselor, so I see her working with like minority students and I see like what I could do for them. So it makes me want to do that. And then I currently do work in the school system. I'm an impact substitute, so it's like a substitute teacher, a teacher assistant, and like an English like
Language learner. Mhm.
all together. Yeah.
ELD teacher. Hmm.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Oh, and I do want to work in high school because that's the most I've been had experience in.
Nice. Adriana.
Yes, so currently I work at a community college in the student services department. And then so originally I went to do my undergrad in teaching, but then I wanted that more one-on-one with students. So I looked more into counseling and I fell in love with it there. So that's what kind of inspired me to be a school counselor. And then the ideal age I would want to do is high school because I also help coach a high school softball team. So I just feel like I already kind of, that's where I've just felt a lot more comfortable in myself. And so, yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Jordan.
Um, I've wanted to be a school counselor for a long time. I also went to a private school, but we did have counselors, and I have a lot of like family trauma, I guess you could kind of say, and that impacted how I functioned, and having my counselor really helped me navigate that. So I want to kind of be that person for other students. I'm not currently in a school district. I did do an internship at Orange Lutheran High School during my undergraduate, and I really enjoyed being around high schoolers, but I also know I'm on the younger side, so it's a little intimidating where that relationship, it's a little bit too close to their age. So I feel like I'd be a bit more comfortable and a bit more useful to like elementary and middle school age kids, at least for right now. Um, so it's kind of my preference too, is like maybe those younger grades, but I don't have too much experience with them too much.
Okay. Elise.
So I am not currently working in the school system. I have three kids. I'm a full-time mom, which is what kind of geared me towards thinking about school counseling when applying my real life skills to a position. So yeah, and I have a natural propensity towards advocacy, and I think that's super useful in the counseling role. And I would love to work with high school students.
Nice. Thank you. Gilbert.
Yeah, so similar to like Adriana, I coached this past for the middle school I work at, Santa Ana Unified. I was the head coach there for baseball. And I loved it. But I do prefer, I think I'd want to work. I've worked at high school level as well, and I loved high school as well. And that's kind of where my girlfriend, she's an elementary school teacher, so I knew for a fact when I would go to the classrooms, I loved it. I'm like, oh, it's so seeing the kids and stuff. She did first grade, so it was great, but I knew I didn't really want a classroom. But I wanted to work with kids and I wanted to coach, and I just had a passion for that, so I decided to school counseling. But like I said, yeah, I would say um, probably high school would be like the preferred. I wouldn't mind middle school though, as well.
Great. Thank you. And Melissa.
Hi. So my mom is a teacher. She's an elementary school teacher, and my brother's a high school teacher, and then my uncle, he works like in admissions. So I've kind
Mhm.
of been exposed to the education field, but I wasn't sure kind of in what capacity I wanted to do it. So I originally thought I wanted to be a speech pathologist, and then I kind of detoured and worked a lot of like customer service jobs. And then in college, I worked in the admissions office. So I really liked connecting with people and like having those moments where you're figuring things out. And so then when I was kind of deciding, I was like, oh, I feel like counseling kind of bridges the gap of all those different things I've been exposed to. And then as for where I lean, I think I lean towards high school, but I could be swayed towards any which way, maybe like elementary school, but I've always said high school.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, guys. So we have 5 assignments that are due this in this course. Your first assignment, I'm going to go over the assignments. If you have any questions or concerns, just go ahead and ask me now. And then also, I have that in our welcome video, so you can review the welcome video again, where I've gone over those things as well. And so it's available there too. So your first assignment, which is due next week, is your ethics and professionalism for school counselors. You're going to write a narrative, APA style, formatted with 3 to 4 pages long. And you're going to answer the questions: what is professionalism to you? What ethical challenges will you face as a school counselor? The impact of at least one of the ideas from Dr. Stone's video that you'll be watching, which is significant to you as your role as a school counselor in the future. You're going to also include cyberspace and ethics. So just a little bit about, do you have a social media account? Which ones do you have? How do you use them? What does it say about you? How do you protect your image there? And also, just do you think the importance of a social media account in your role and how that will play? Because obviously, a lot of schools do have Instagram accounts and etc. That's how they do share information with our parents. And then comment on your personal views and values of the use of social media as a resource for school counselors. So, how you plan to use it and follow the ethical guidelines for that. Assignment 2, which is due week 3, you're going to review 3 videos. And then those 3 videos, you are going to consider your views on the LGBTQAI population, your personal biases, your beliefs about sexual orientation, human cost to transgender students, and the impact on school campuses, policies, and confidentiality. You're going to do a narrative on this. You need to include one of the videos, something about that you saw that was impactful, and you're going to answer the questions in there. Making sure that when you're using your APA format, please make sure that you download the template that is on your Canva. Use the most current template that is available. Please don't forget your subheadings, because as you're answering the questions, you're kind of putting them in the subheadings. All right. So you can title it anything you like, or you can title it exactly how maybe it's listed in the question. You're going to include the questions of your new learning and challenges that you have occurred on those issues, any challenges that you might face with those issues on the LGBTQAI group, how you will reconcile any personal, religious, or professional values as a future counselor. Include information from one of the videos, and comment on if these issues are currently prevalent at any of your campuses or experiences that you have with your at any of those campuses. Okay. Again, that one's going to be 3 to 4 pages long. Your third assignment is a PowerPoint, or just for like a slide deck. The slide deck can come in any format that you like. Obviously, I'm old school PowerPoint, but definitely there's plenty of other tools out there that you can use. You're going to do a presentation in our week 5 class. Okay, so you need to have your PowerPoint ready to go on that Tuesday. You're going to choose a historically underserved group. Either that's our special needs population, that is our English language learners, our undocumented youth, our racial and ethnic minorities, our foster youth, our homeless youth, and our socially and economically disadvantaged youth, or our LGBTQ plus group. Okay. Choose one of those. Obviously, we'll have duplicates. No worries about that. It's your own choice based on how you connect or what you think is most important to you. So there's no worries about um, having duplicates. All right. You during your presentation, you're going to answer these questions. Briefly describe current issues and or challenges faced by students that are in this underserved population. Describe two mental health related and or educationally related laws, which are still in effect today and that may impact that group of students. And then how those laws affect the student's mental health or educational functioning, and then how you would apply those laws as a school counselor. So those are the things that you'll complete. You shouldn't have more than 10 slides. I would say anywhere between um, 5 to 10 is, enough. Your slides are going to have the information on it, but you're going to be doing the presenting. So any additional um, extra resources that you want to provide or stories or whatever, that's part of your presentation. Now, I'm going to limit you on your presentation because there's a lot of us. So in order for us to get out on time on that day, well, I'll calculate it out. I'm thinking 4 minutes, 4 to 5 minutes, so that we can be on time. So you want to practice, make sure you get your information out, make sure you answer all four of those questions during your presentation. And if you have time for any extra information, go ahead and include that as well. Our fourth assignment is freedom of expression, and this is due week 6. Remembering that we have spring break in one of our weeks. Okay, so I think we get to week 4 and then we skip a week and then week 5 starts that week. Okay. I'll send out an announcement as a reminder, but just I think that's how it goes. For the freedom of expression, you are going to focus and tailor the conversation to a high school. Okay, so we're not talking about elementary, we're not talking about middle, we're talking about high school students. Okay, and you're going to talk about what students say, do not, or say or do, or do not say or do in terms of verbal speech, written assignments on campus, clothing on campus, and off campus texting and social media posts. So what can they do and what can they not do according to the law? You're going to write a 2 to 3 page paper discussing the student rights in those 4 areas. You're going to mention at least one law related to each of the 4 areas. Okay, it could be a court case, it could be a law, it could be educational code, whatever it is. Okay. And you're going to discuss difficulty or challenges involved in those 4 chosen areas. And as it relates to a school counselor, you're going to include specific strategies that you would use to maintain compliance to those laws and how you would apply it as a school counselor. And again, we're focusing on a high school campus. Okay. So try to get into your high school mind. Yes, Miss Emily.
Do we have to choose a specific district?
No. This is just your mindset is high school. Just try
Just
not to
overall.
apply. Yeah, your whole mindset is just focused on the high school level.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
instead of the elementary level or applying it to anything like that. Okay, just make sure as you're talking about the different aspects of speech, written assignments, clothing, and off-campus texting and social media and all of that. Okay, what are the do's and the don'ts? Okay, what can they do? What can't they do? A lot of new laws too, right? Your final assignment is your signature assignment. I'm going to go briefly over this. We will use our next class to go into more detail about it because it is your signature assignment and it does take a lot. What I want you to leave today with is what do I want to think about? What theme that the book has do I want to think about in collecting 3 legal cases, okay? The importance of this assignment is that our book has several legal cases in it. You can't use any of those as a reference, okay? So you have to find 3 new ones. All right? So that's the hardest part. The second hardest part is finding the cases, which I will show you how to do. And then the next part, once you have the cases, read the cases, understand the strengths and weaknesses of the cases, why they were thrown out or why it was dismissed or what was valid, what was invalid, you're doing a compare and contrast. You're doing an analysis of those 3. Hopefully you pick the same thing, like sexual harassment, like bullying, like duty of care, like these are all themes that are in our book. Scholarships, if there was loss of scholarships, negligence, these are all things that you'll see as you begin to read the textbook. These are all themes that come up and that Dr. Stone will talk about. Confidentiality, that's huge, so you'll find cases where there was a breach of confidentiality and you will use those. Doesn't matter if you're doing college, middle, doesn't matter. Okay, that's not the importance. What you're trying to show is, okay, this is why this one won, perhaps, and this is why this one did not, because you're kind of comparing, you're analyzing it and saying, this is what this is what research says about it, and this is what happened, and this is why this person maybe lost the case, okay, or their job, or there was some type of consequence based on that case being taken to trial, okay? When you start writing your assignment, and I'll go over all of that, it has on your writing assignment page all of the different sections that you'll include. One thing that you'll include that you probably haven't done yet in any of your past APA is an abstract. That's probably the only thing that you're going to include in this one that you haven't had any other experience with. All right. So your paper will have a purpose, like describe why you chose this issue or theme, and your personal and professional connection to it. The problem, like which is, what we're studying in this book and what they'll give us that information about. Like, why is this a problem? Why do counselors keep making errors with this, right? Then the analysis is analyzing those 3 cases, right? And the most important about analyzing it is I don't want a summary. Don't say this person said this, and then this person said that, and then this person said this. You're taking the strengths and weaknesses of the case and putting them all together and writing it coherently. Like, in this court case, we found this, but in this court case, we didn't find that, and that's what we're doing. I don't need to know like so-and-so said this and maybe a little bit of a brief background. If a sentence or two, middle school student sued the school district because of, something like that. And then you're answering the question with your analysis section. What is the issue at hand? What is the reason behind the case or claim? Any relevant research or studies about past court cases that refute the claim for both opposing views. And then what are the strengths and weaknesses of both of the opposing arguments? Okay, and your opinion. Your opinion is supposed to be solicited in the reflection statement, so no opinions in this section. Then the findings is just like how they found the court. Did the person win? You want it to be about a school. It doesn't necessarily have to be about a school counselor. But let's just say we want to try to research the school counselors, but it's going to be hard to find something just specifically on a school counselor. So if it's the administration and the school counselor was pulled in because she was involved, or he or she was involved, yes, Okay, but we're looking at the school. The school was dismissed. The school was not dismissed, that kind of thing. And then the reflection is the describing how these court cases and studies impacted your understanding of our legal and ethical issues. And then your conclusion, which describes new learning. So those are the sections and the subheadings that you'll have. Again, we'll talk a little bit more about themes next week after we kind of dive into some of the text a little bit. And then I'll show you how to start to research some of your court cases and find court cases that are not in the book. Okay. And that is it. So your final assignment, your signature assignment, remembering this because things do happen. I always like to say this. I mean, we're moving along, life is great, and then life hits us, right? And we have 8 weeks in this class. So you get all the way down to your last assignment and you can't turn in this last assignment. So you know that because it's a signature assignment, you can't get a grade for this course. So making sure that if something happens like that you reach out to me as soon as possible, but also so that we can try to navigate something for you, especially if you've done very well in the course and you're here and this life-altering thing has occurred. I have to turn in my grades on time, which is that Sunday of that week. But maybe they'll let me keep it open till Monday or something. I don't know. So that's what we're talking about. This assignment is due Wednesday of week 8. So our classes are on Tuesday, but it's due Wednesday of week 8. So if something comes up before Saturday, if you could be deathly sick and you said, I have half of the paper done, but I am barely awake. Send me an email. Try to have somebody send me an email. Obviously if you're deathly ill, you can't do it. But at least I can know that you are there and maybe you can send me half of the paper and I'll get back to you and we'll see what we can do. Because that might happen, right? Same with all the other assignments. If you get behind, let me know. If you have to miss a class, this is college, you're grown-ups, do it as you please. Notify me. I appreciate that. But you know what to do to make up your points, right? So you can do the extra assignment. There's the AWL assignments for extra points. Keep track of your points, just and keep track and tabs of everything. Okay. Definitely just send me an email if you can, if you're able to, or say I've got to miss something came up. That's fine. Now, after the second one, that's a no. You can't miss 2 assignments. Even if you do the makeup assignment, you can't miss 2 live sessions. Okay. Same with you're all set to go. You're ready to do your presentation. It's there. And something happens on that day. It's 5 o'clock. It's happened to me. I've got to cancel class. So you know what I mean? So just know that does happen. And if that happens, just reach out to me right away. Like, look, emergency happened and my PowerPoint's ready to go. I'm going to send you an email back, tell you what to do so you can get it uploaded by that Sunday, normal time. Will meet your criteria. Okay. So just know, reach out to me. I'm available for any questions or concerns. I put my office hours at 4 p.m. on these Tuesdays. I'm usually online trying to organize everything, get everything so it flows really well. Because time goes by really fast here. And I try to get out as much information as I possibly can today. So I'm going to run through a PowerPoint real fast on chapters 1 and 2. I usually try to do a lecture of some sort to try to talk about the material at hand. And then I have a video on the a video on the ASCA standards and how they came into play and how they were redone in 2022 to kind of give you an idea of how that's going. If Okay.
I have a question. Are these PowerPoints available to us as well?
Sure. Definitely. All right, so we're talking about legal and ethical issues in school counseling. So we're trying to understand the foundations for our ethical decision making and the laws, and just how to keep ourselves protected throughout this time. So I'll go over all of these different things that were covered in chapters 1 and 2, and kind of give some definition and some background to this information. All right, so law versus ethics. Okay, the definition of a law is consists of the rules established by the U.S. Constitution, federal and state statutes, and regulatory and case law. So we have common law or judge-made law. It's based on legal precedents and serves as the minimum standard society will be able to tolerate. And then laws differ by geographic location. So we're going to be focusing mostly on California law because we are certified here. But remembering that we'll find cases where that's not necessarily prevalent here in this state. Okay, so we'll see some differences with that. Not that if you choose a court case from a different state that it's not applicable. It's totally applicable. Okay. And our codes are slightly different. So I'm definitely going to be focusing on our educational law. The purpose of law is to codify society values and maintain order throughout enforceable standards. And in school counseling laws govern confidentiality, parent rights, and mandated reporting. So those are themes. If you can write that down, if you just want to take notes of that, those 3 things, confidentiality, parent rights, and mandated reporting, those are a couple of themes. And I'm just going to kind of point out some themes as we go along in this thing so you can kind of get some ideas of, okay, that's what she means by a theme. Ethics are agreed upon professional values that guide conduct with the school counseling professional. So we'll talk about the ethical standards and how they rewrote them in 2022. We'll get into that just a little bit. They reflect evolving norms and enforced through the professional organization. Ours is STEM. They require counselors to consider multiple perspectives and balancing competent interests. And our ethical dilemmas often involve more than one right or wrong answer. So we're not looking for right or wrong answers. We are requiring that we have this professional judgment. So our ethical standards help us to say, what would the majority of the school counselors do in this particular situation? So we kind of want to make sure that we all have a similar answer to that. Ethics often go beyond the legal requirements and they aim for higher standards of care. So that's where we don't just say, oh, that's not important. We're not making our own personal decisions based on how we feel about a situation because we all come from different backgrounds. And we know that we can look at a situation, child abuse is one of them, right? So if you were a parent, if you were someone who was spanked, if you were this, we all have those thought processes on how we feel about them, right? But we have our standard that says that we're mandated reporters. And so if we see certain things or we hear certain things, we are obligated to report it. We don't have to be right about it. That's why the whole system is in place. The next group of people are the people who make the judgments on by going out to the homes, by, investigating further, looking at certain things. They make the determination of whether it is or is not child abuse. We just hear the information and report to the next group of people. Okay, so that's what's most important. We don't want to ever get caught in a situation where we heard about it and did nothing because as mandated reporters, that's what puts us in jeopardy. Okay. And it's up to you individually. Okay. So you want to, again, apply Just because it's up to you does not mean that 90% of the other school counselors would not have reported. You want to be in the group that would have, definitely, oh, this is a definite report. Like, so if that's how you feel, you don't want to be standing alone. Well, I didn't think this or I didn't think that. You don't want to be standing alone. You want everyone to kind of have the same thought process as you do. There are some complications working with minors. There are 13 complex factors that are highlighted in our textbook that have legal challenges that school counselors face daily. Okay. The counselor's values, bringing in your personal values and biases, which can impact objectivity and affirm all students. Okay. So we're going to have biases. That's not the problem. The problem is, how do we let these biases affect us? Again, going back to the example of mandated reporting. If we have a bias towards, well, they're always taking these kids away. I don't like social workers. Maybe I had something happen in my family with social workers. Maybe there was an experience that I had. So I need to make sure that my experience, which may have been a bad one, does not affect someone else who's crying for help. Okay. So that's what we were trying to make sure that we focus on. Biases such as racism, sexism, homophobia, and other isms must be recognized and mitigated. We've been taught, leave your isms at the door, but what you want to do is not leave it at the door. It's in you. Recognize it and then make the best decision after that. Like, oh, is that sexism? Am I being judgmental? We're recognizing it. And then we're doing something different about it. We need to engage in self-examination, always educating and consulting. Don't be afraid to consult. Find somebody to consult with, a social worker, your administrator, anybody. If you have questions and you think that you shouldn't do it, but also don't let someone persuade you not to do it. I had a friend who was working in a school district and they needed to report sexual abuse between two students. And the principal said, no, I don't think it happened. I don't think it's not what he thinks happened, right? So he didn't want to make the report, right? But she was like, I'm doing it. So I'm sure that saved everybody, right? Whether right or wrong, that wasn't the point. The point was, this is what we heard. This is what she said. This is reported, right? And that's the bottom line, right? And then if she recanted her statement or something else came out of it, that's okay, because that's what the other agency's job is to do. School counselors owe loyalty to students, but also to parents. Okay, so we have our parents, we have our teachers, we have our administrators, and we have our community. So remembering that when we're using confidentiality is a good example of that, right? So with confidentiality, we might want to talk about what's happened in the home with all these people, and we're breaching confidentiality when we do that. But if you're telling the teacher, because the teacher works with them, and that it is going to hinder their relationship, it might be worth sharing. So you can share without giving the intimate details, and be able to say, you need to watch the student, or the student has concerns in this area, so that they get them help sooner than later. Okay. We need to provide accurate and relevant information to parents while maintaining ethical and legal responsibility. That goes the same way. When our kids are older and they're in high school, after 12, with a lot of the sexual things and getting help from mental health help, all those things, 12, they can make their own decisions, right? So they can go to the doctors, they can do that. That's in California. Maybe different in other places, but it's in California. So they can get medical help, sexual things, sexual services, birth control, all of those things, right? And they can leave the campus to do so. So these are things that we need to be aware of. Minors, developmentally mature, may not respond with their chronological age. That's something that we need to take into consideration. I see this all the time in elementary school, especially with trauma. Trauma will make them not develop according to their chronological age. And especially if they're being re-exposed to the trauma every single day. So you'll see a regression. You'll see a student who is 10, 11, but they're acting like a 4-year-old. And you've got to provide those services based on his developmental age being 4, not 10. We can't say just grow up, because that doesn't work. We have to make sure that we provide them with the skills to develop. Okay. And that's our job as a school counselor. That reminds me of a current case I have. A student was exposed to trauma his entire life. He was dropped into our school last week, and he is 10, 9, 10. But like I said, developmentally, he's 4. So he's not going to class. He's not doing work. He has total 4-year-old like behavior, and he's a big boy. He's a big boy. So with that, I have to go slow. I can't expect him just to go into class, stop acting like this, stop doing that. I have to kind of slowly treat him until I get him into that classroom. And he's not ready for it at this time. We also must assess cognitive and emotional maturity when handling confidentiality and counseling. So again, making them age appropriate and putting him in groups where he's going to be successful with the appropriate people that have the same cognitive and emotional maturity. Legal cases illustrate differences in developmental capacity among minors of the same age, and then a developmentally sensitive approach improves ethical and effective counselors. Okay, family, educational rights, and privacy are state laws that influence confidentiality practices. So we'll talk, then we have a whole chapter on FERPA. That's another theme that you will see. We also have to have minors are generally not legally able to consent to counseling without parental permission. So that's where we're going to talk informed consent. We'll talk a little bit about that. That's another thing, informed consent. And there are some states with exceptions. So again, not our state, but there are other states that are. And we have emancipation also, and that does exist here. So with our personal values and biases, we need to make sure that even if they're unconscious or conscious, that they may lead to oppression or are marginalize a vulnerable group of students and undermining trust and making sure that we give them effective support. So as counselors, we hold the power to influence over students and must affirm and advocate for everyone. So there's always a different group there. So you might have a marginalized population that is not underrepresented at your group because there's a strong focus for your school and they've kind of shifted, but making sure maybe the group that hasn't been historically marginalized is now being marginalized because the focus is on the other side. So remembering to advocate for everybody at all times, that's super, super important. So it says in 2022, our Ask Us survey found out that over 84% of counselors agreed that unwillingness to work with LGBTQ students is incompatible with the professional and ethical standards. So again, that's something that they started to address in our ethical standards. So obligations beyond the student. So we have a responsibility to our parents and our guardians. We have a responsibility to our school staff and our community. We need to make sure that we build trust with both of them. We provide guardians and parents with accurate and relevant information in an objective and caring manner and consistent with our ethical and legal responsibilities. We need to balance our students' confidentiality. So if we're seeing our student, we don't have to detail it, even if the parent has signed for it. We don't detail what was discussed. There may be something that comes up in that counseling session that needs to be brought to the attention of that parent. So we want to make sure that we get approval from our student to share this conversation with their parent as we bring them in and inform them. We need to make sure that we have I want to ask the group before I move on. In confidentiality, there are 3 reasons when we can reach confidentiality. Anyone know those 3 reasons? Let me make this bigger so I can see everybody. Anybody know those 3 reasons? Rebecca, you know? Turn on your mic.
Maybe like harm to self, if there's like a intimate harm to self or harm to others. Those are the 2 I know. Or 1.
Right? All right. So we say it like this: if you are going to harm yourself, you're going to harm someone else, or if someone is harming you. Those are the 3 reasons. So every time you bring a kid in and they say, "Can we talk? I want to talk to you?" Say, "Okay, this is great. Come on in. I've got plenty of time." But and they say, "Oh, well, I want to keep this. This will be between the 2 of us." And you say, "Well, I'd like to keep most of the things I can keep between us. However, there are 3 reasons when I cannot keep those things confidential. And I have to tell that to you before you share it with me." And then you tell them the 3 reasons. And then you say, "Do you understand?" And then they'll say, "Okay, well, yeah. So is this involving anybody wanting to hurt you? Is this involving you trying to hurt someone else? Is this involving you trying to hurt yourself?" And if they say, and you say, "Okay, I still want to hear it. You can trust me, but I need to let you know that I can't keep it confidential. I do have to get extra help for you." Okay. And what that help will look like depends on what you're going to share with me today. So that's something that you can say to them. So you're being transparent. They understand straight off. They still tell you. And you want to make sure that you are open and that they understand, because you don't want them to be upset with you or be angry with you that you didn't tell them right away, that you told them later, so making sure that that's clear. Okay, so parental rights. Courts consistently uphold parent and guardian constitutional rights to direct the upbringing and case of their children. Parental authority is emphasized due to minors' vulnerability and limited capacity to make life-altering decisions. And there's several cases that we'll witness within the book that talk about that. The minor privacy rights, that's involving FERPA. And this is where we can't share certain things, personal information with others. And we can share directory information with others, but nothing other than that directory information. We have to balance ethical confidentiality with legal obligations. And we have to make sure that we protect our minors. And then there's a lot of, again, additional cases that we'll be studying in the book. We talked about chronological consideration and developmental approaches and the legal status of minors and counselors. Mostly it's 18, but as I stated, the age 12 for those medical are the 2 things that we need to take in consideration. I also have a document I'll share with you in regards to when do you do child abuse, when it's age to age. So it's a chart that'll kind of tell you, okay, if it's a 12-year-old and a 17-year-old, or if it's a so it kind of tells you when you report and when you don't need to report, kind of giving you that guideline. Again, it's a guideline. It's not etched in stone. Okay, so I'll share that chart with you as well. In local parenti means that we are in place of the parent, granting educators temporary authority over the students during the school hours and ensuring safety and discipline. So that's where they get us sometimes because you were in charge. Did you make the right decision? Example of that sometimes is the challenge with when do you call 911 and when do you wait for the parent? Sometimes because sometimes with that medical, that timing is of the essence, right? So hopefully you never have to make that decision alone. But ambulatory costs are extremely expensive for everybody. So even us with insurance, so just imagine those families that are lacking insurance, we still have that ambulatory care that we have to pay. And that's where parents, if they've had that experience before, that's where they get hesitant. I'm coming, I'm coming. There's that fine line that you're like, nope, I can't wait. Sorry. We had a boy run into a pole and he was fine for a second. And I do mean a second. Then he passed out and then he was coming and going. And so obviously we called the ambulance like right away because, and he had no recollection of it. He started seizing in the ambulance. So obviously we made the right decision. Temperatures are another one. They're at 101. I'm coming. Because 101 usually isn't scary to a parent. But when they hit 104, that's really bad. So you don't want to be at 103 and then just now trying to get a hold of parents. And if you're like where I work, sometimes they answer, sometimes they don't. So you want to make sure that you're trying all the different methods to be able to help them. So that's where that in local parenti is. Like I'm making that decision. Like, look, it's 104. You're an hour away. You're 30 minutes away. And you send someone there, and then you tell them to meet you where you're going. We need to exercise reasonable care to protect the students and intervene when necessary, following our legal standards. And we need to guide counselors in managing student welfare, discipline, confidentiality in the school setting. All right, so our community standards, our community shapes is shaped by the values of the school community and the institution. Community standards dictate what counselors can ethically recommend, such as access to reproductive health care services, different programs. We have to access local tolerance and community fabric to act ethically while advocating for student welfare. Very sensitive topic is our resources that are inclusive, our health resources, and our family resources that are inclusive to all students. We're showing all different types of families, not just the traditional family. And parents are having a difficult time with that. They don't want us teaching that information. So a lot of them are opting out. However, there's a lot of those things they have no choice to opt out on. When we have when we're teaching health, we're teaching health. When we chose the curriculum, we're teaching the curriculum. They don't get to choose to opt out of that particular curriculum. That's our California state law. And we don't have to send anything home. In the sex ed videos, we do. Okay, so parent permission, there is no opt out, but a lot of us, we're transparent. So we just, here's the video. Go look at it for yourself. That's it. They don't bring them to school. They don't bring them to school. That's okay too. So we need to have trusting relationships and confidentiality. I think I told you confidentiality is a huge thing. So that's one of the things that come up the most, and that's the one that we'll be dealing with most often. We talked a little bit about confidentiality, when we can breach it and when we can't. And then just that fine line. Like, when do we share information? When don't we share information? Um, SST, Student Success Team meetings. I'm the coordinator of those. And if our district, every counselor is a coordinator of that. So if I have something tricky that's going on, I can ask, and then I say, do you mind if I bring this up to the team? Can I mention this at the team, with the team if they've shared something? And the parent might say, no, thank you. Who's going to be there? All of that. But if the psych is doing the evaluation and has additional questions, obviously we need that person to know that information. I'm not going to be doing any assessment. As a school counselor, we don't do assessments. So therefore, if I'm holding this information, how do I get this parent to release this information? Because it'll be crucial for them as they're doing the assessment, making the decisions. Maybe the rating skills that they're sending home may not address those questions. So we need to make sure that that gets out there somewhere. So somehow we have to have that conversation with our parents to be able to inform them and let them know, like, the team is coming together to make the best decisions for your child. The more you can share with us, to be able to be open and honest. And then that way it's revealed by the parent at that meeting instead of it being revealed. So now it's out there. The parent said it. There's no confidentiality at that meeting. We don't honor that. So now it's not coming from you. So that's another way of addressing some of those, getting some more information. What else do we do? Okay. So we're going to talk a lot about the practices of confidentiality and go into more detail about that. Informed consent. So this is the part where we need to make sure that whenever we have counseling, now when we do class lessons, we never have to have informed consent. We just go in, we do a lesson. The lesson is based on whatever the teacher asked you to come in and do. I know this is hard. For the high school students, I did them all the time. I'd go into English. I'd go to the English teacher and say, hey, I want to talk about this. When can I come in? They would find the perfect timing for me to come in. I'd come in and I'd do a lesson on something that involves, careers or something to that nature. Some high schools have an area that you can kind of go into for that. So all the students hit. But the importance of when you're doing those class lessons is making sure that you hit everybody. Everybody has access to it. The only reason why they didn't get it, they were absent that day. Not because you chose this group or you chose that group. You chose everybody in that grade level. And that's how you're informing. Okay. And your data will support that. When you go into the small groups, that's when you have to have an informed consent. So one strategy I do is I might do a small group and I might do a get to know, and it might be on the topic just to see if I got the right students and they feel that way. Then I send out the consent form. Then I base everything like, okay, are you going to be in this, this class or whatever? Sometimes you hear information, it's not accurate. Or another idea, the parent wants the child to have counseling services for this situation, but the child doesn't want it. You don't see that it matches. So if you do that first lesson kind of informally, you can kind of see, well, and call back to the parent. Like, I know you said you wanted counseling for her, but she seems to have a good hold on how she's feeling about X, Y, or Z. So I don't see where bothering her with that and bringing her out of class and talking to him or her about that is going to be important. And then giving some feedback to the parent about. You want to make sure, be careful how you title your small groups, because sometimes you can say something that's really scary, so like trauma. Like, oh my God, you're going to bring up all this stuff. No, we don't want to say that. We want to say how to deal with our emotions, how to deal with past experiences, how to heal, things like that, so that the parent understands what you'll be talking about. And just make sure it's clear, though, because you don't want to kind of mask it and then you're touching on subjects that they don't agree to. You want to make sure that you know how to heal from hurt. Okay, that's trauma, right? So they know something hurt them. So how do we get past it, or how do we start to get better with it? Our school counselors too, we're mostly, focused on, we're not deep therapy. We're not diagnosing. We're using strategies that therapists use, but therapists go through an assessment process. And then after that assessment, then they start tailoring how they're going to meet with that person to get to a goal. And they develop the goal with the patient. And then they use some type of theory to form their conversation, right? We're not going that deep. That's real deep, right? And that could take session after session after session. We're doing small sessions, repetitive, and we're trying to make sure that we are teaching a skill or a strategy that's going to be helpful, and that's going to help them in the three areas that we cover, which is social, emotional, academic, and college and career. Okay. So that's sort of our goal is as school counselor. And that kind of separates us from social workers, MFTs, clinical counselors. That's what separates us. Okay. Because we don't go into that assessment. We use data to determine how to put our kids in a group and what group they should, or we use surveys or parent requests. That's what we use to determine. And then once we get that, we just kind of talk to them and go from there. But we don't use any tool to determine that they have this or don't have that. The opacity of laws and ethical standards, we need to make sure that school counselors, since it's multifaceted, that we are making sure that our rules are not clear cut. So every situation we can encounter in our practices, our federal, state, and school board policies and ethical codes vary in interpretation and application, and sometimes producing conflict, directed with our directives. So you can go from one district to another and they do things oppositely, or I wouldn't say oppositely, but differently, right? So you want to make sure that you aren't trying to use because you like that way better at this district, because you better do it the way the district asks you to do it that you're in, and not, now you can, if you have a better way or a clearer way, you can try to say, oh, hey, I used to work at this district. I want to share this with you. Are you interested? And maybe they might change how they're doing it. There's not a lot of laws on, we have the one suicide policy that we participate in, and we're the leaders of our risk assessment, and that's going to come up too as we talk about suicide policy, and that's a theme in the book. So every school district in California is required to have a suicide policy and prevention. And so you better follow it to the letter of the law because that's a legal thing. So now you can't change it and say, well, I think this is best, or I think that's best. Well, I had it happen in my family. I'm familiar with it. No, you have to follow what the policy states for that specific school district. Student client ratio caseloads. This is highlighted in our book because the recommended ratio is 250. Anybody at 250? Anybody school that they work? No. 424 is the national average. That's not me either. So I'm one counselor, and we're at 585 with declining enrollment. 585, and they keep opening those TKs. So that's just no. We love having them on campus, but they are babies. And so having those 4-year-olds on campus is a lot of work. However, it does sustain enrollment. So remember that you're walking into that for those elementary school campuses because that's how they keep the numbers up. Many times you'll be the only person even in the middle schools and high schools, there's two, and there's probably like 800. So you're right around that 400 level. But it feels like you're alone most of the time anyway. So just make sure that, sometimes it's hard because you have all of these different responsibilities. And, we talked a lot about how you want to sit and work with the kids. It's really hard to sit and work with a couple of kids because if your campus is busy, they're going to expect you to hit everybody. And so you can't say, well, I'm talking to this person while I'm doing this, while I'm busy. You can't do that. You're going to have to move fast and without making it feel rushed by the students. So there's a lot of work to be done. Standard of care. This is a huge theme, and this is one that gets us all the time. Standard of care refers to the actions and decisions expected of a reasonably competent school counselor under similar circumstances. It serves as our legal and ethical benchmark, and meeting the standard of care means acting with due diligence, professionalism, and according to accepted ethical and legal norms. Okay. Failure to meet this standard, it imposes liability for us, okay? And disciplinary action. So remembering we're not taking like what you think you would do or how you feel. This is about what would most counselors say and do in that similar situation, right? And they must base their actions on law, ethical standards, and school policy to align with the standards of care. Legal defense often hinges on demonstrating adherence to the standard through documentation, expert testimony, and professional development. So that's another thing. If your school, and my school district has gotten so great with professional development, I mean, phenomenal with professional, there's always something going on that we can learn or that we can go to. However, I started 28 years ago and they were not so good. So there was a lot of times as a school counselor, I didn't know about X, Y, or Z, or I needed more information about X, Y, or Z. So I looked through the County Office of Education in LA, found trainings I could go to, and went to the free trainings because most of the trainings were free for us. So if there's something you don't know, go out, get more information. Our program helps to guide you through that process. But after 10 years, things change. And if you're making a career out of it and you're planning to be there 20 plus years, you'll need refreshers. You'll need extra information. On the counseling, I mean, I went to DBT theory. I went to solution focus. There's a lot of different theories that you can use that will help you with your small groups, that will help you with develop and how to develop them. So these are all strategies that you can use, and you have something to say, I'm using this type of counseling that is highly recommended. CBT, that's highly recommended. Cognitive behavioral therapy, that's highly recommended for us. So you're not pulling something and saying, where'd you get that from? Why'd you teach them that? I taught them that because CBT works, okay? And this is what all the experts say about CBT. This is CBT, okay? So that's what you're looking at as you're designing your lessons. Okay, our ethical standards is responsibility to students, responsibility to parents and guardians, responsibility to the school and the profession, and ethical decision making and standards maintenance. So these are the areas that we'll be focusing on for our standards. The responsibility to the students is supporting their academic, career, and social emotional growth without diagnosis. Okay, so that's our thing. Confidentiality, that's where we talked about informed consent, making sure that we keep that and balance our ethical and confidentiality with the legal rules. Our group work and peers, facilitating groups, informing parents about participation, and measuring the outcomes. So why did we do it? What group did we choose? Where's the data that supported that? Why we chose that group? Why we had that group of students? That's really important. Preventing serious harm, notifying the guardians and authorities when students pose any serious risk to self or others. When we're talking about threatening other people, your job is to get that threat assessment team together. We'll talk about threat assessment in the future. We are not the leaders of threat assessment. Usually a dean, an administrator, or someone else is. We serve on the team as the mental health professional in case that threat assessment turns in, well, I'm just going to kill myself. Uh-oh, now it's me. Okay, so now I jump in, right? But before that, we're just listening, we're assessing. The other team members are probably doing all of the conversation, like why do you have access, all of those important questions. We'll talk about that. And I have a couple of questions that I'll share with you, the standards. And then, but with the risk assessment, that's all us. Okay. Our policy says that you must be assessed by two mental health professionals. Number one is school counselor. Number two is school psychologist. Number three is school social worker. That's because we have more of one and two, and we have three of number of social workers. Then we have mental health professionals that can be called in at a different time, but you have to go in that order. Now, I haven't had my school psychologist has been new for the last 7 years. I get one a year. And so I kind of lean on my social worker who's stationed at my school because she has tons of experience and it just goes a lot faster. Then not only that, you find out if there's more going on in the home, bam, she's right there. So it's just easy for me to connect with her and get that done. So now she's working on the parent and all the extra stuff while I work on the child. And so that's kind of how we tag team with that. And then advocacy and inclusivity. We need to advocate for our marginalized populations and promote respectful, inclusive environments, collaborate with our parents and guardians, our school staff, our teachers, all of the people, and strive to eliminate any biases that might be formed by the school culture, the community, anything, and make sure that we kind of help with that. Our responsibility to our school parents is just making sure that we inform them and support them and maximize our students' development with legal and ethical boundaries, provide accurate, comprehensive, and relevant information to our parents and guardians in a caring and objective manner. Okay? Taking in consideration all of their backgrounds, we could be from the same ethnic group and I can still not connect, right? So there's something that I have to recognize. Maybe I came from a two-parent household, but this is a single parent. So there's some, differences there. So we have to, and biases and different, things that come about. So we have to take that into consideration. Our responsibility to the school counselors is supporting the staff and the students. I can tell you, once you've been there a long time, the teachers will tell you everything. So, and sometimes you're like, oh my God, how's this person in charge of 20 kids? So sometimes you have to say, how can I help you? Where can I get you some support? And you got to bring out those references. Sometimes you have to go tell the principal, hey, I think she needs some extra support there, right? Without saying what the person told you, confidentially. So you just want to say, I think there's something else going on there. Maybe we can reach out to her and see how we can support her because with that tough class, for us, it's a bigger deal on the elementary level because they have those kids all day long, all 6 hours, all 20 or 30 of them, but in middle school, they get to rotate. So I remember as a middle school teacher, I was like, oh God, here comes my best group. Thank God I can rest. But when you have those block classes and you have they make you work hard during those block classes. And if you've got a group that's a little more challenging, you're just like, when is this over? When is this over? So, and then same with our high school, they get to rotate a little bit more. But you remember they have stress and they're people too. So they have the stress of their job and they have their own personal stress. And sometimes when you get those two mixed together, it becomes real difficult. So making sure that you support them as well. Here's our ethical decision-making model. And it's defining the ethical dilemma, identifying cultural and power dynamics, applying ethical standards and policies, consulting with your professionals, considering developmental and parent rights, and then applying moral principles and selecting an action. So that's how you go through. Did I do all of those steps? And those steps are highlighted in the blue. And then what are some ways that you can those are all the ways that help you to come to the right decision, the right ethical decision. So our 5 moral principles that guide our ethics are autonomy, beneficence, non-maleficence, justice, and loyalty. So those are the 5 areas that guide us and promote our ethical standards. So we always are going to have ethical dilemmas in school counseling. It's a gray area at times. So we're not looking to be right. We're looking to have the most evidence to support our decisions and that we are making the best decision based on that information. In our school counseling, one of the things they talked about was dual relationships. I bring this up because dual relationships become a big issue. That's also a theme. Dual relationships. Many court cases have occurred because of that. And those of you who are interested in high school, this is tough because you want to create that trusting relationship. How far do you go? You give them your cell phone number. Thumbs up for giving out your cell phone number. Thumbs down. Yeah, no, we aren't doing that. Okay, so yeah, that's not a good idea. Okay, we don't want to give them access to us personally, and even if it is a school cell phone, okay, and it's in the school gave it to you, which we don't get as school counselors, but social workers do and other people do. So just making sure that even if you're in a district and they do give you a cell phone, careful, cautious, because the whole thing is, are you on 24/7? You're never on 24/7. That's not our ethical standards. So if they start calling you at that time and say that they want to cause harm to yourself, well, guess what? You gave them the cell phone number, right? So you got to be cautious of that, right? The dual relationship, showing up at the house, showing up at the parties, showing up at the graduations. Showing up is fine. Partying, not so much. Okay, so maybe you show up, you see them get their award, you take a picture, and you say, "Okay, I'm out of here." That's it. Like, and they say, "No, stay, have a drink." Oh, no. Okay, that's where you kind of say, "Oh, no, thank you. I gotta go. Thanks for the offer. Really appreciate it," and keep going. Remember, culturally, don't go if the culture's it's negative for the culture for you to decline food. Don't go because you're planning to decline the food. Now you've insulted them. So that's not okay either. So you got to kind of weigh those type of things as well. Is showing up more important than then you're going to decline the food, and then you're going to hurt your relationship because now you've involved all the other family members, right? So you want to make sure that you're making the best decision when you're talking about those dual relationships. You want to support. We're going to have to support outside of the school for trust, for things like that. But we want to make sure that we don't go too far. Okay. Remember, I've had this happen in my lifetime as a school counselor. You think, oh, we're good. She understands me. And next thing you know, they're telling everybody how you're the worst counselor ever. Okay. And you're like, where did that come from? How did that happen? So just try to be professional at all times. Try not to, be close to anyone. Be careful of what you say, even though you do feel like comfortable talking to that parent or that individual. Just, be cautious of that. There's a lot of court cases. We'll kind of go over a couple of case studies in the future, but I'm running out of time. So I am going to end it here. And I had 4 minutes. That's it. All right. So, for as far as the ethical standards, I will, in the 2022, I'll kind of play fragments of that just so you can hear the changes that were made. That's important to us and the areas and how they switched it out. Just you can see how it has developed from 2016 to 2022. They'll review it again in 7 years. That's going to be in your lifetime. So you just want to make sure that you kind of understand or have, and it was a lot of things that have been learned, obviously, through our COVID time and how they changed some of their thought processes from 2016 to 2022. So there's a couple things in there that are pretty important that I'd like you to be aware of and hearing it from the team that helped to develop it in the process of how they went about getting information from all 50 states, including Guam, to create this document. All right. Questions, concerns, last comments? All right. You should have a discussion board this week. So get on that. Thursdays, same as always, Thursdays. And then responding to 2 individuals by Sunday, Sunday evening. I have all of your assignments to where it should shoot out to you and remind you on your Canva, just as your reminder. If you're like me, put the reminder on 3 times because you still miss the meeting, like me. So, especially when you're being pulled in 7 different ways. All right. It was a pleasure meeting you this evening. If this class, I'll ask a lot more questions in the future to get you engagement. I won't always talk just with that. Sometimes I'll post my lectures instead and just kind of have them there for you to review. All right, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. Good night.
Hi, sorry, I have a question.
Sure.
So I know we start our practicum, well, now. Are we supposed to be reporting our hours already in some type of form? What do you know? Because I know they made
So
us a
no. So no,
okay.
not yet. In your first practicum, or no, in your handbook, there is your
Uh-huh.
practicum log, and
Oh,
you
okay.
will submit that practicum log to your site supervisor. And
Okay.
then you will also include, if you notice, there was an assignment that you got hours for in your practicum, one of our assignments. So when you are completing that assignment, you want to log that as well, because that
Oh,
assignment
okay.
counts as some of the 100
Mm-hmm.
hours that you're doing.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. So
Okay.
like for
So
example,
you'll,
like yeah.
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So like let's say I do like next week I go for a day to do my practicum. Do I just like report it onto that log and I just save it till the end and give it to my supervisor?
Absolutely.
Oh.
So what you're going to do is your site, your university supervisor for practicum will ask that for your grade during that practicum course, right? Which is starting, it's opposite of my weeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you'll meet next Tuesday with that
Mm-hmm.
person and they'll go over when to upload, what you should upload, when you should upload it. All that will take place in that
Oh,
course. So
yeah.
they'll go over
Okay.
all that. That has opened up for you as your practicum section. And so just like you'll follow with my class, you'll keep up with my assignments. In that class, there are assignments. So they're telling you by this day you should have 40 hours. By
Okay.
this day you should have, to meet the 100-hour requirement. And again, don't forget to include my assignments that and the time that you spend on my assignment. And I think it tells you how many hours you can accrue for that
Yeah.
assignment. So make sure you include that just in case, like you were supposed to go to your practicum, something came up, you couldn't go that day. You can get some hours
Got it.
indirectly through some of the other things. So make sure you keep track of that. They're going to go
Okay.
over all of that, all of the forms when you open up the Canva for your practicum, those forms will be available to you, like my assignments are
Okay.
available to you. So you're going to get all of that at that same time. And
Oh,
then
okay.
you'll
Thank
meet
you.
with them. They'll go over those assignments, and then they'll tell you how to upload.
Yeah. Okay. I was just wanted to ask because they wanted me to start my practicum on Tuesday. And I was like, I want to ask before I even, but I don't get to see the counselor until after the,
Well, go ahead and
so
start. Go ahead
yeah.
and start because you're already enrolled in the course.
Yeah.
The only time they can't count your hours is before you're enrolled.
Okay.
So you're
Got it.
enrolled, you're ready to go. So go ahead and start your hours. They
Okay.
won't discount those hours. Now, if you had done it last semester, yeah, they would have discounted.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But this,
Uh,
no, you're set to go.
okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Bye. Good night.
Oh, could
Yes,
I ask a question too?
absolutely.
So I took a break, so I'm coming back and so I feel a little behind on my practicum too. So that was really good to hear. But does my district need to have an MOU for a practicum or is that just for field work?
Just for field work,
Okay.
I would start working. Most of them already have a MOU. So what you're trying to do at this point is make sure that the MOU is current. Many times we do it 2 to 3 years at a time with that
Okay.
specific district. Um,
Mhm.
and they have it listed, all the current MOUs that are in place and what's available so that you don't have to do any work. So what you're looking for is to find that the MOU is current
Okay.
and then just making sure that when you get to your field work, you don't need it for your practicum, but when you get to your field work, just making sure it's already ready. Because it comes really fast with that field work
Yeah.
and it comes at inopportune times. So if it's over the summer, it has to be on the board minutes to get that MOU redone. And, a lot of times it's not your responsibility, it's responsibility of the university. But sometimes
Okay.
districts shut down, like, oh, we're having too many layoffs. I can't talk to this person. I don't know if we're going to do that, that kind of stuff. And so you having the experience at your district teaching whatever your role is can get to that person. Like my district is extremely small. So I know exactly the person who I need to go to. And then I'd say, hey, I have a practicum student or I have somebody who's interested and they want to do it. We have a procedure. The procedure is just send an email to him. I say I'm accepting the person, and then he meets and interviews, and then he writes the MOU. So if it's a new school, he'll write the MOU, and then
Okay.
he's the direct person, but he has to send it he has to get it board approved. So
That can take time.
that takes long. That takes long. You give it to him in June. There's not going to be a board meeting until about September. October. August. So if the person wants to start August 19th, no, that's not good. But you give it to him
Okay.
like in May.
Mhm.
And then there's certain times where they can get it, before the school year. Like so he can get it on the last agenda if it's opening up for the new school year, or he might have to put it on the first one for the new school year. So it just depends. Like you just want him to make sure that he gets all the paperwork, he or she gets all the paperwork completed that's in charge of sending that MOU to the district and to the board.
Okay. And so is there a list then that I can access to see the districts? Because I'm in the Bay Area and I know, well, I'm sure there are
Yes.
districts up here, but yeah,
Yes.
because
So
I'm
what
just not.
you're going to
Okay.
do is you are in your practicum
Uh-huh.
and you'll get emails from them. I can't
Yeah.
remember where it is. They may have moved it.
Okay. I can look for it.
But yeah, I'll look for it in my old emails to see where it's located and then shoot you an email and then let you know where it's located. Because I think they put out a list. But we've also had a lot of changes in our department, in our School of Education department. So somebody might have taken over from the last time I did it. So I just want to make sure. Okay.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Thank you. I really appreciate your time, your extra
You're
time.
welcome. Have a nice evening.
All right. You too. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.